Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast, where I, Anna Woolliscroft, chat with fellow writers and outdoor enthusiasts about how we can embrace creativity and curiosity to live a life full of adventure that doesn't feel like hard work. I delve into exploratory conversations about my two loves in life, writing and nature connection, as part of my mission to share the well-being benefits they both bring. It's wonderful to have you here today. In today's episode, I'm chatting with registered nutritional therapist Alix Tomkinson about nutrition deficiencies and identifying the symptoms, the pitfalls of low-fat products, and appetite and portion control. Hi, Alix. Welcome to the Writing with Purpose podcast. Thank you very much for joining me to have a conversation about diet and nutrition as part of the 6-part series. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. So, Alix, you are a registered nutritional therapist, and today we're going to talk about nutrition deficiencies, trying to put my teeth back in, and finding the answer for complex ladies, along with portion control, appetite control, and all of that other good stuff that we can learn from you this morning. So I'm very interested, and I love this terminology, but what is a complex lady?
So, most of us are quite complex. We probably think we're not, but our bodies are complex. They're very clever. They do lots of different things. So for me, a complex lady, so I work with over 40s, so over 40 ladies predominantly. And as we get older, things are getting more complex. The way things are working in the body is getting more complex. The way we respond to what we're eating becomes more complex. And we're not always aware of this. So, and also because we've got that history of things that we've been through up until we get to 40, we've had quite a life. There's lots of things that could have been going on affecting the body. So, I see people with gut issues that have come on throughout the years. I see people with all kinds of hormonal imbalances. Obviously, as we go towards menopause, that gets more focused
Snowballs.
on because of new menopause and our hormones doing what they do. So so we just get more complex. So I don't think anybody is a simple person at all because bodies are pretty complex. So and amazing because of what they can do. So
We are amazing, and I think it's a great point to bring up. Actually, I think we tend to forget sometimes how amazing we are, and all of the biological aspects of the body, the chemistry that goes on in there, the neuron networks and all that sort of stuff. And without the age and things getting worse, snowballing in effect, we are very complex as soon as we're born, aren't we? Before we're born.
Absolutely. I mean, it just gets more complex as we get older. So
but of course, part of eating a healthy diet and looking after ourselves and being physical and movement and that sort of thing, helps us, I'm assuming, as we grow older, to help our organs and things to still work in an optimal levels, because they do start to sort of slow down and break down a little bit. So there's lots of things that we can help to support that, and good nutrition being one of them, which is why I'm really enjoying talking to people in this series, because it's really useful for people to know what sort of things happen to us when we eat certain foods, what's good for us, what isn't good for us. So you mentioned that you work a lot with ladies over 40. And as they start to feel the effects of the hormones and their body changing in certain ways. And, some of this, your work is centered around the deficiencies that we have in our diet. So, but how do we know whether we're deficient in something, I guess, is the question. So I'd love it, Alix, if you could share a little bit, maybe talk about some of those telltale signs, maybe what some of the typical deficiencies are that women tend to find during that age, some of those imbalances, and what kind of symptoms we can look out for.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, gosh, it's a massive topic because it really could depend on the person,
We're
what
all
their
different.
diet
Yeah.
has been looking like up until then, and also how they absorb food. So what's going on in the system, so in the gut, and how things are actually being processed in the body. So there's lots of things that can be going on. So a lot that I say, so common deficiencies I'm seeing quite a bit at the moment. So iron is one actually, which you wouldn't expect as too much. But yeah, I'm seeing iron quite a lot. And it's really important to get checked. So if you are feeling kind of lightheaded, dizzy, just not yourself, if your energy is on the floor, all of these could link to iron. So it's worth getting that checked. But it's important to say that with nutrition, lots of things cross over. So you can be having symptoms, all of these symptoms, but it could be something else completely. So it's hard to say without doing an actual test to know. And I'm a big advocate for testing because I want to know exactly for my clients what is the issue. So iron's one I'm seeing quite a lot at the moment. Vitamin D is one I see all the time. And I'm always asking my clients to get vitamin D tested, because even if you're taking a supplement, how do you know what level of supplement you need and whether
Yeah.
that supplement, so the NHS are recommending 10 milligrams per day. So,
Hmm.
and that's kind of like a blanket. Everybody take a vitamin D tablet and take this. I think it's 1,000 IU a day. But you
Right.
take, they've got a recommendation. You take this every day. But if your vitamin D is really low, then that's not going to be enough to bring it up to where we
Yeah.
want it to be.
So just to clarify, Alex, vitamin
Mm.
D is what we get from the sun, or if we're outside, well, I shouldn't say that's what we get from that, but that helps us with the vitamin D.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Getting outside when the sun's out, we actually make it. We have a vitamin D receptor in the skin that takes the sunlight and converts it into making vitamin D. So this is all well and good as long as you know that you can convert that. So another test that I did on myself, I actually found that I don't make vitamin D. So
Right, at
yes,
all.
no. So my
Wow,
vitamin D
okay.
receptor is really poor. So
Mm,
if I stand outside in the sun and completely sizzle, it's not going to really help me because my vitamin D receptor is really rubbish. So this is a deeper level of testing that I can do with people.
mhm,
I've done it on myself. It's genetic testing. So this is
mm.
in my genes that codes for a poor vitamin D receptor. So I know at
Um,
that level that I need to support my vitamin D levels all the time.
mm,
And I was a bit kind of confused as to why when I always tested my vitamin D, it was always low. And I was like, oh, I seem to always need this, even when it's been the summer and I've been outside quite a lot, my vitamin D, whenever I test it, is really on the low side.
mm,
And then doing the genetic testing, I now know why that
mm.
was. So it's massively opened up how I look at things because,
Yeah,
it's so interesting to know at your genetic level that you aren't going, that however much you go out in the sunshine, it's not going to help. So I have to put in vitamin D to make sure I've got it going into the body. So,
yeah,
and I'm seeing a lot of clients who are low in vitamin D as well. And vitamin D is so important. It's included in so many different processes in the body. It's needed for so many things. Immune system is one, but there's so many other things that
yeah.
it's needed
But as
for.
you say, things cross over with the food, but also in the body, don't they? The
Yeah,
different parts of the body talk to each other, rely on each other. So
absolutely.
we couldn't even guess half of what goes on unless we've got that kind of training.
No, exactly. I'm also seeing B vitamins quite low in people. That's for energy. So people are coming to me saying that their energy is on the floor a lot. So when you go to the doctor, a lot of the time they will check iron. They're not always checking things like B vitamins. They're not always checking vitamin D either. So
Mm,
I'm sending my clients back to the doctor saying, just see if they'll check this, because we want to make sure from like an energy, if energy is low, we need to make sure that all these other things are working as well, because energy isn't just from one thing. It's
mm,
from it's made from lots of different things.
yeah.
So different nutrients are involved in there. So we need to make sure everything's optimal
Mm.
for that. So yeah, so I do a lot of testing to make sure what levels we're actually at.
Yeah, and I guess if we don't have those tests, particularly as you mentioned, the genetic testing, then we can play around with certain things like food, maybe
Mm.
different exercise, maybe getting out in the sun. But unless we're sort of checking things off and we're really going down to the minute detail, I guess we would potentially never know.
No, No, we wouldn't. We wouldn't. And,
Mm,
testing isn't for everybody. So,
mm,
we can do the best that we can with what we've got available to us. So
mhm.
we can test our levels. The doctors will do some tests. So, we can get those. And vitamin D is one that generally, when I ask my clients to go and get done, the doctors will do it.
Yeah.
There are also private tests that aren't too costly for some of these as well. So it
Mm,
just depends, and tests vary massively in
mm.
cost. So yeah, it just depends what it is. But that's where I am trained to identify what we should be testing,
Yeah.
because if I'm looking at energy, for example, I'm going to suggest that we test all of these different things just to check.
Mm,
So whereas going to the doctor, they won't necessarily look at everything. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that overall picture, isn't it? A friend of mine actually, about 3 years ago, I can't remember what made her go. She went and had some tests. I don't know who she went with,
Mm-hmm.
because she was having issues with her gut. And she didn't feel right at all. So she went and she had some tests done. I don't think she probably didn't go for genetic testing, but I
No.
remember her saying that whoever she'd seen had basically told her to cut out a load of different foods for a period of time and then introduce them back again one by one, but in abundance. So, for
Oh.
example, I think don't eat eggs for a month, but then have 5 eggs in a day or something like that.
Oh
And just
gosh.
see what was going on. I mean, I might have got the finer details wrong there, but I know it was a lot to do with cutting out certain things and then introducing them again to see how a body reacted. But I'm guessing that, even that itself, you can stop eating a load of things and have one and be fine. But then, as you say, because things mix, you could have something else, just another type of food added to that other food, and then it's all chaos again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So this sounds probably like it would be, I think, like an intolerance testing, maybe, or allergy testing, where you
Right.
would remove foods, or it could be a gut protocol where she was doing a gut, looking at the gut and whether eggs were affecting the gut. Why you would put them in abundance, I'm not sure, because
Mm,
1 egg or 5 eggs is
yeah.
still putting in the protein. Well, I guess the tolerance level maybe they're looking at, and if the tolerance, that was just too much for the system to deal with.
Mm.
Whether it's an allergy and they're looking at a level again for the allergy to show up, I don't, without knowing
Yeah, it might
what
have
the
been more
test
to do with
says.
allergies and
Don't
intolerances
know.
actually, rather than deficiencies, because I think for a while she didn't have any dairy. So when a lot of people are supposedly dairy intolerant or at least lactose intolerant, aren't they?
Yeah, it's
To
quite
some
common.
extent. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
It's fascinating. So you mentioned iron, vitamin D, and vitamin B in particular are things that are
Hmm.
showing up quite a lot for your clients. Is there
Yeah.
any foods that are particularly high or have got a content of those vitamins that people, obviously I think, speak to somebody who
Yeah.
has the knowledge or have some tests first, rather than trying to do some things yourself. But is there any foods that you would recommend that would have those nutrients in?
Yeah, so generally for iron, red meat
Okay.
is full of iron. So
Mm,
if you're a meat eater, so vegans or vegetarians can be often low if you're not getting enough. So iron, it would be an egg, so a lot in animal foods, and then also green leafy veg. So, but obviously it depends on your diet. So even a vegan, if you're not getting those green leafy veg in, and we have to, so that iron is in a different form. So we need it to be with vitamin C to be absorbed into the body.
right. And that's
So
where you need the
yeah,
knowledge.
so you've
Yeah.
got the animal form, which is ready to use in the body, and then you've got the plant form, which needs to be worked with and
Mm,
combined with vitamin C to help with that absorption.
mm. And I guess
So
as well, in terms of quantity and helping you to have the amount of food that you need,
exactly, yeah,
there's a
this
lot
is
of
it as well.
leafy greens compared to a steak, isn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah, exactly. The levels will be, yeah, quite different, and the level of absorption will be quite different as well. Like the iron in the meat is ready to go. It's kind of like your body, in theory, should just be able to use that very easily.
Mm,
So that's iron. What else I mentioned? Vitamin D, sunlight,
yeah.
as we mentioned. Mushrooms. Some packs of mushrooms now say vitamin D on the front. How much
Right.
is in there? I'm not sure, but mushrooms are very beneficial in the diet anyway. So always good to be adding those in, and
Yeah.
it might give you a little bit of vitamin D as well.
Not really a mushroom fan, as I'm sure quite a few
You
people.
know.
It's a texture thing for me, I think. I don't particularly like a mushroom, but I can tolerate mushroom soup or mushroom pate. So I think it's definitely a
Ah, the
texture thing
texture.
rather than
Yeah.
flavour thing,
Oh, that's
which
interesting.
yeah, as I get older, I'm trying my best to get over that. I see that as a bit of a, a defeatist attitude in a sense. And I never used to like green beans. What was the other thing which I will eat now? I can't say I particularly like them, but I do eat them. And mussels and things like that. This prawns I've always loved, but other
Yeah.
sort of shell fish, if you like. And I think that's just the look of them puts me off.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't
Oh.
let that bother you, should you? You could
Well, I
decorate
don't
it.
know. We all have these. We all have things we like and don't like, don't we?
Yeah,
So
yeah, but
vitamin. Go on. Go
I
on.
was just going to say mushrooms, I'm sure for many people is a bit of a not sure.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say for vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So we are also supposed to be able to get some from oily fish. So things with fat in, so oily fish. I think, just thinking, eggs vitamin D. I'd have to check, but
Right.
yeah, there are, yeah, definitely.
Mm,
There's definitely in mushrooms, and they're being grown in a certain way to make that vitamin D.
mm, mm.
So
So the growing process helps to add it
yeah, I
in
think
or retain
there's
it.
sunlight, or maybe it's not sunlight, maybe it's fake sunlight or something, but they're doing something where they can put vitamin D
Yeah,
on
because
the
I guess quite
packet.
often when you see mushrooms out in the wild, a lot of them tend to be in the shade.
Mhm.
So that's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it is. Don't know.
yeah.
And how you couldn't guarantee you're going to get enough if you need vitamin D if you're low in it. You're not going to guarantee by eating a few mushrooms that you're going to raise your levels up to be enough.
Get the
So
proper levels. Yeah.
yeah.
Still fascinating. And then vitamin B.
So B vitamins are found in green leafy veg again. So green leafy veg is really good for energy because we've got magnesium in there. We've got, which is also used for energy. We've got, and that's one I see quite a lot as well. We've got iron in there. We've got folate in there in the green leafies. They're all used for energy.
Mm,
So green leafies are really good. Also whole grains for B vitamins as well. So there's lots of different B vitamins. So I'm kind of just you would see them if you were taking a supplement. You might see it's called a B complex
yeah.
because there's
Hmm.
different ones and they all kind of work together. But
Hmm.
generally, most of them will be in either whole grains or green leafy veg. So if you put
Mm.
those together, you'll be onto a winner.
Yeah, nice whole grain salad with
Yeah.
green leafy veg, topped with a few mushrooms.
There you go. Perfect.
Perfect. You can't go
Yeah.
wrong with that, can you? And a boiled egg, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
chopped up boiled egg, perfect. I've been running this morning. See what you think about this. I've been running this
Well,
morning, and just from having a conversation with somebody the other day, and she said to make sure I have protein within 20 minutes, half an hour,
mhm.
to help my muscles and that. So what I had was two boiled eggs first, and then I had some Greek yogurt with some fruit, with a few chia seeds on top.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sounds
Yeah.
all right.
Getting lots of
Excellent.
protein in there. Yeah. Nicely balanced.
Excellent. And I shall have a salad for lunch, so I won't let myself down by having beans on toast with cheese or something like that at lunchtime, which I do love, by the
Yeah.
way.
Beans on
um,
toast is fine though. It's actually
is
quite
it?
balanced. Yeah, it's actually quite balanced because you've
Okay.
got the protein and the carbohydrate. So there's probably a little bit of sugar in there, but
Yeah.
it's not too bad.
I guess
Yeah.
choosing wholemeal
And
bread
cheese as
or
well.
grain bread would be,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Is
absolutely.
there actually that because we went to a farm shop the other day and we bought some cheeses.
Hmm.
I love cheese and crackers and that sort of thing. I
Yeah.
don't have it that often, but it's something like a cheddar cheese or a Cheshire cheese. Because I always find that particularly when you grill cheese, a lot of fat comes off the cheddar cheese. So
Yeah.
is this sort of a, I mean, and I love feta cheese as well. I quite often would put some feta cheese on a salad. But
Hmm.
is there sort of, a different end of the scale that's better for cheese lovers to, hard cheese, soft cheese? Just put that for you.
I don't have a definitive answer on that one. So cheese is fat. So we know that fat is essential in the body. We need some. With fat, we're getting the most calories per gram of all the macronutrients. So if you overdo it with cheese, then from a calorie side of things, you're going to push calories up. But generally, having some, you've got protein in there. Yes, you've got fat in there as well. But as long as you're not overdoing it, it's going to be okay to be including as part of like a balanced meal. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's any that are better than others. And I also wouldn't recommend going for low fat cheeses either.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I would go for the fat, because in the body, because I work with weight loss a lot, we want to trigger a hormone called leptin, which is triggered by fat.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a feeling of fullness in the body. So when we trigger leptin, and a lot of people have lost this, being able to feel full because we're not triggering leptin, because all our diets went low fat. So actually having fat in there can make you feel full. It can make you feel more satisfied. It's this kind of fullness, feeling full. So, and that really helps with that. So leptin's really important, but something that a lot of people aren't always seeing the benefit of in their diet.
Yeah, that's a really valuable point, actually. Something that, yeah, I think we don't really hear about. We're not told about. This is, again, it's these sort of different hormones and chemicals and things in our body, isn't it? That we don't know how they
Absolutely.
work in order
Absolutely.
for us to digest things properly, take what we need out of them. Yeah,
Absolutely. And
fascinating.
if you think about everybody talking about low fat diets, so the 80s, 90s, everything went low fat, didn't it? And now we have this kind of obesity epidemic where, nobody knows what to do to control what's going on. And it seems a little bit out of control. But if you think about the low fat, all that low fat movement and taking fat out of everything and going, so when manufacturers take the fat out, they put carbs in instead. So they put sugar
Yeah.
in quite often.
Mm.
So we've lost that triggering in the brain of leptin saying that we're full. So
Mm.
we're not getting that because we're not having the fat. But then we've also got the carbohydrates messing with our blood sugar levels and telling us that we're hungry all the time. So
Yeah,
we've got
on
this,
that peak.
we're kind of not
Mm.
balanced from our appetite side of things. We're not balanced because we're not getting that switch off from the fat to say you're actually full.
Mm.
We're satisfied, we're full, which should be triggering through the body.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
that's a really interesting point. Next time I go shopping, I'm going to look a little bit more at the backs of the labels, because I know Greek yogurt is one of the best
It
for
is,
you. So
yeah.
I buy, and that's Greek, not Greek style, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But I always get the zero fat one, and I know there
Right.
is a 10% fat one and there's a 5% fat one as well. So I've always just gone for the 0%. However, I bought some creme fraiche yesterday because my partner, he makes quite a nice cheesy pasta sometimes and he uses creme fraiche. And I got the normal one because I did look at the back of the low fat one and the normal one. And there was only the one ingredient in the normal fat one, and in the low fat one there was stuff that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
So exactly as you say there, stuff's being added, and I thought I don't
Yeah.
want the added stuff. And there was a few more calories in the normal one, but I thought that's probably the far healthier
Yeah.
option.
Absolutely. And this is the problem nowadays. We don't know what we're putting into our bodies
Mm,
when we're buying things because of manufacturing. We don't actually know what we're getting. So I always go for full fat Greek
yeah,
yogurt.
yeah,
So yeah, and because I know I want my body to be responding and telling me that it's satisfied. I don't want it to be constantly saying, "You've not put fat in, so I'm going to be feeling hungry all day," because
yeah.
I'm just gonna keep saying that we've not had enough. So low fat will give you protein. It will give
Mm.
you quite a bit of protein, but and that will help with that as well. But yeah, the fat is really
It's
important.
just adding stuff in
Yeah,
that you don't really need in there. Yeah.
yeah.
And something that I heard on the radio, would it be? Can't remember. Anyway, last couple of days, I heard something on the radio, and somebody somewhere, some organization is creating bread that looks and tastes like white bread, but it's actually a brown bread. And I just thought,
What?
what is it? But just eat the good stuff. It's just, I don't see any point in researching that
Oh,
kind of thing because, that's the problem anyway with processed foods, isn't it? They have all of these sort of flavor forums and focus groups and things. How do we make this taste better? And it's just full of
yeah.
stuff that you don't need.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like it's going to have flowers added in for whatever, so they can claim certain things, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's a minefield manufacturing. They're very clever with what they can do, but also you've got to ask, is it good for us?
Mm.
So it's obviously going to appeal to people who don't like the brown,
Yeah.
but So they think they're still getting the benefit, but it's going to be manufactured. It's going to be probably quite processed. So,
Yeah,
and
there's
then things may be added in.
something artificial is going to be in there,
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen out for that one then.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah.
But I found myself getting really angry listening to the radio. I thought, why?
Yeah. Why do we need that? And it is like you say, it's part of the problem because, like, for kids nowadays are growing up thinking that this processed diet is a normal thing
Mm,
and that they don't have to have the brown bread, they don't have to have the whole grain or whatever, but because things products like this are going to be available. So
yeah.
it's like the half and half bread as well, which is a slightly better one because they've got some fiber in there. But back in the day, you just have the whole meal, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd just have the wholemeal bread
You
and get
would.
used to it.
Yeah, why this sort of thing ever got produced, I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway, we shall move on because we're
I
both on our
know.
soapboxes a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I'd love to also just chat a little bit about with you, Alex, is the idea around portion control, and what a good portion control looks like, and whether that differs really with age, and whether we need to sort of be mindful of different types of portion controls for breakfast, lunch, evening meal, snacks, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So portion control is really key and it links to appetite. And it's something that we have kind of lost the connection with a little bit because we eat to what's on our plate. So if you go out for a meal and you are given a large plate of something, which you generally are, the portions generally are going to be far more than what we need. So if you tune into your appetite, halfway, probably a quarter to halfway through that meal, your fullness signal is going to be telling the brain that you're actually full. But because that is on the plate, feel like, and I hear this a lot, it's very common. We need to finish the plate. So we end up eating the whole plate and then we're feeling stuffed. So it's about tuning back into you and knowing what is going to satisfy you. And you mentioned about certain times of the day. I'd say it depends on what you've been doing as well, because like you said, you've been out for a run this morning. You're going to need now more food than somebody who's just got up and hasn't done anything. So
Yeah.
because your body's already been using energy to do running, so I think we need to be starting to listen to our bodies, tuning back into the appetite and eating to that, but also stopping when we're feeling nicely full, not over full,
Mm,
which is really key with getting us back into uh, like proper portion control, because our bodies know how much we need. They will be telling us, oh, you're still hungry or you're full, as long as we're eating the right nutrients. So when I mentioned the protein, the fat, our meals are nicely balanced, maybe fiber, that helps to fill us up as well. The nicely balanced, we're going to feel like we're satisfied after a meal.
mm,
If we're not feeling satisfied, so I see a lot, people have a meal and then they feel like they're not finished after they've had a, so they've eaten a full meal, but then they need something sweet or something
mm.
savory. So it might be that they go and grab a bag of crisps after having a meal. And it's like understanding what's going on there. Why is that? Why do you
Yeah.
feel like you need a bag of crisps? Have you just had a meal? That should be telling you that you're full.
Yeah.
So it's kind of exploring what's happening there as well for somebody if they're not having that switch off. And it could be that the meal isn't balanced in the right way. Why is that not switching off the appetite
Mm,
once they've eaten a full meal? Or maybe the meal wasn't big enough. So they could need potentially bigger portion size. So if they're not feeling full. But I think
mm.
because we've lost this connection with our appetite so much, and like I say, we're eating to what the clock tells us. So it's midday, we've got to have lunch, or it's 8 o'clock and we need to eat, or whatever it is in the evening for you. We're kind of eating by the clock. We're not tuning in and saying, well, are we actually hungry? Do
Yeah.
we need something at that time? And then the portion, if you are not even hungry, you're going to eat something that you don't need anyway. And that could be a
Mm.
big portion because it's lunchtime or it's evening meal or whatever. And yeah, so it's a really interesting one, portion control, but absolutely really key as well.
Yeah,
So
it is interesting. And I like what you say about eating to the clock as well, because I think, particularly, when we go out to work, that kind of thing is
mm,
almost dictated to us. Oh, you've got a lunchtime between this and that time, so that's when we have to have lunch. Being quite fortunate with working from home, as you were saying that, then I was thinking, I think I might be quite lucky because I tend to eat breakfast around about the same time. If I go for a run, I've started trying to just have a banana and a lot of water before I go, and then I'll have my breakfast within about half an hour when I get back.
yeah.
But my lunch can be anything from You probably say this wrong. From 11 o'clock in the morning to about
Mhm.
2:30 in the afternoon. And I think some of that depends on what I've had for breakfast,
Yep.
perhaps what I've been doing. But usually I eat when I feel hungry.
Yeah. And that's what we
Um,
should be doing.
okay.
Absolutely. You should eat
Mhm.
when you feel, if you're feeling hungry at 11,
Mm,
then for whatever reason, your body is ready for food. So when we're
yeah.
getting hunger, so this is different to a craving for a mid-morning biscuit or something,
Yes.
which a lot of
Yes.
people get. This is
Mm,
proper hunger. And obviously, you know the difference between that growling in the stomach or just, oh, I could eat a biscuit, which, is
yeah.
quite a different
It's
thing.
more of a kind of, you feel it in your belly if you're
Yeah.
hungry. But then if it's not and you fancy something like that, like a sweet treat or a savoury treat or whatever we go for, then it's more of a craving, a sort
That's a
of
craving.
urge,
Yeah, it's a
like a
craving.
mental thing rather than a
It is.
physical thing.
Absolutely, it's psychological craving. Whereas if
Mm,
you're getting that rumbling in the tummy, if you know you're hungry at 11, you need to eat because your body's telling you. And then
mm,
likewise, if you're not hungry, if that rumbling isn't happening until later on, then you're absolutely fine as long as you are responding to that when it happens.
mm,
Your body, it sounds like your body knows when and you're probably quite regular with your meal. So around that sort of lunchtime period between, give or take an hour or so, is
mm.
going to be feeling it at some point there. So.
Yeah, generally speaking. And I do have, when you were explaining about having an evening meal, I do definitely have that feeling that I've had enough,
Mm,
but I finish what's on my plate because I think from from how I've grown up,
mm,
and all the starving children out there, that kind of conversation,
yeah,
I think it's good etiquette to
yep,
finish what's on your plate.
yep,
But I do think that I would benefit from probably eating less and then maybe having a teeny tiny snack or something like that, perhaps an hour before bed.
yeah,
um
yeah. What
just
you can go on,
I
go
was
on.
going to say, just to sort of spread that over a little bit, because sometimes I do feel hungry before bed, but I think, no, it's before bed, so I won't have anything. But I guess if it's the right thing, then would I be okay with that? As long as I wasn't going on a
Yeah,
full stomach, maybe about an hour or so before.
yeah, definitely. I always say to people, as long as you're not spiking your blood sugars before bed,
Mm,
that so whatever you eat, you want it to be nicely balanced. So
mm,
so because you don't want a blood sugar. We haven't spoken about blood sugars, but we don't want imbalanced blood sugars going to bed because
mm,
that can wake us up through the night. So things you can do is looking at portions. So if you feel, I'm the same, feel like you have to finish the plate, I sometimes will put less out and see how full I feel after having a smaller portion. And actually, then I know that that portion is enough for me.
yeah.
And I can always put more out if I want to. So it's about how much you put onto your plate. If you're somebody who feels like you need to finish a plate, don't fill the plate massively with food start with, and
Mm,
then just tune in and see how you're feeling with your appetite after you've had maybe a smaller plate. So a lot of people like using like a side plate and putting their food onto that, eating that, and then seeing how they feel, because it still feels like you can fill it up because it's a
mm,
smaller plate. So
mm,
psychologically you still feel like you're getting quite a bit, and it works for
yeah.
me quite a lot. I can be full on a side plate of food quite often.
Yeah,
So
just thinking that the local carvery down the road here,
yeah.
if I go there, which isn't very often, but I'll
Yeah,
have a small, and
yeah,
they give you a smaller plate. But
yeah,
then, yeah, and the psychological, I'm looking at that thinking, that's a small plate. I'm going to be able to fit much on there. So it does tend to be a bit more of a
yeah.
dome.
Yeah.
But then it's smaller for a
It is
reason,
going to
and it
be
should
smaller.
should pay attention to that. But I think a lot of it is just about paying attention, isn't it? And
Mm,
if you have something you don't feel quite right, whatever that might be, feeling that tiredness, that sluggishness, is to seek
mhm.
the proper advice, get some tests done,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
play around with the portion control. Because even as you were talking now, I was thinking, if it's something like maybe something which has got a high carb related, so maybe a pie,
Mhm,
or which I don't have that often, to be fair, but something like a spaghetti bolognese or a lasagna,
mhm,
then that is when I start to feel full more than if perhaps I have. So last night we had some salmon with some leeks with a little bit of cheese on top,
mhm,
and what else did I do? um can't remember what else I did, but it wasn't rice, it wasn't pasta
mm.
or anything like that. So it was more just veg and fish.
Yeah,
And that I felt satisfied, but I didn't get that I feel full.
too full. Oh, so
So
you're not full at all?
no,
You're not feel full?
I was content,
Nice.
shall
Yeah,
we say.
nice. Like, mm.
Whereas with something like a spaghetti bolognese or a lasagna, I'm finishing that plate because I feel I need to finish the plate and I'm full.
Yeah, yeah, I
So,
see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, exactly that. And I think that's
mm,
a lot of people. So we can
mm,
overeat because we feel like we need to finish the plate.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. Ah, I don't, yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. And then just a final question, Alex, if we've got time. Appetite control. What sort of things do we need to be aware of with that? What can we look out for? What behaviors can we look out for?
Yeah, so appetite control is, yeah, I've just been touching on that a little bit with the appetite. So we have different hormones relating to our appetite, and we need to make sure that we are balancing our meals to include this. So fat, I've already mentioned.
Hmm.
So our hunger hormone is ghrelin. So that is the one that's telling us a grumbling in the stomach and in the tummy. That's the one telling us we're hungry. And then we've got leptin telling us that we're full, but
Hmm.
that one responds to fat. But then we've also got protein makes us feel full as well. So depending on how you eat, you will see once you start tuning into your appetite, you will see how your body is reacting to certain foods. So some foods you can eat and feel like some of my clients, like I say, would be then looking for something else after having a full meal because
Mm.
they don't, for whatever reason, they don't feel satisfied. They don't feel like they've eaten whether the meal hasn't been balanced enough, it's not triggered those satiety hormones, whatever it's done, it hasn't been quite right, and they feel like they need something else. But then the things that people are grabbing, you've also got to question whether that is an appetite thing or whether that's more of a craving or a habit, something that they tend to do. So if it's something sweet after a meal, it might be
Hmm.
more of a habit because you've eaten, so your hunger isn't there, but you still feel like, so your taste wants a bit of something sweet or a bit of
Yeah.
something salty or something. So that can be more linked to a habit that you might have done for a long time.
Yeah. So if you're used to having, a pudding after an evening meal, then that's
Yeah.
perhaps more of a habit of I always have pudding, so what's for pudding?
Yeah. And your body will be looking for it. It'll be looking for that sweetness afterwards because it's just got used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So appetite, what I do with my clients is we're looking at tuning back into it, like I was saying. So we are saying, so before you eat, you want to be feeling a nice level of hunger because if you push your hunger too far, you can then end up overeating later, or you
Mm.
get to that point where you're starving and you could actually eat, you could just eat everything, and whatever's in front of you, it's just going to get inhaled because there's just no stopping you because you haven't eaten. So it's about managing that hunger and the appetite side of things. So how you and tuning in, asking yourself how you're feeling. So how hungry am I? Am I hungry that my stomach is rumbling and that I need to eat, or is it that I have just eaten and I really shouldn't be hungry, but I'm wanting something sweet and it's more of a craving? So that comes under looking at appetite as well and whether we're experiencing that. I have an appetite, like an appetite. I'm trying to think what to call it, like a chart that you can,
Chart.
like it's
Yeah.
a diagram where you
Uh-huh.
can you can look at it and it goes through how you're feeling. So
Hmm.
extremely hungry. So at the bottom, you would not want to push yourself to starving because then your body it hasn't received nutrition in the right time. Essentially,
Mm.
you've overdone it. You're going to eat whatever is put in front of you, and you're going to overeat because you're absolutely starving. You just want to get food in.
Mm.
So there's that extent of that end of the scale, and then you've got the other end of the scale. You've got fullness. So when Christmas dinner feeling, when you're absolutely stuffed on buttoning
Yeah.
your trousers, and you feeling a little bit sick because you've overdone it, but then you're still gonna have a mince pie or something, or just try and fit something else in. That's the other end of the scale. That's the word I was looking for, a scale. So it's a hunger scale. So the other end of the scale is that absolutely stuffed, feeling sick. You've had too much. And we want to be, so when we're about to eat, we want to be just feeling a little bit hungry. So you might be having a little rumble in the tummy. We're not feeling like we're starving. We haven't pushed it too far. We're just about ready for a meal. That's when we want to be eating.
Mm.
So after eating, we want to feel nicely full, nicely satisfied, not like our stomach is too stretched. So it goes between, so there are numbers on these and I can share it, but it goes between a couple of numbers like 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 or something, but it's just a little bit of feeling. You might be a little bit, so you got satisfied, and then you would have a little bit more than satisfied, so you've maybe had a little bit more than you should have done, a little bit more full but still okay, and then it will push further upwards. So you've overeaten,
Yeah.
you've had, then Christmas dinner feeling, you've eaten far too much, so it kind of goes on that scale. So does that make sense?
It does, it
Yeah.
does. And as you were talking there, because I'm quite an advocate of journaling and getting thoughts and feelings and things on paper and reflecting over things. And I was just thinking that would be a really useful thing for people to include in a journal, so they could put themselves on the scale, match that with what they've been eating, and those habits over time. And then that's really good feedback then to look back on and think, okay, well, I had this, and maybe I ate too soon then, or then I ate too
Yeah.
much then, or maybe this isn't the right type of food for me to help me feel full in the way that I should be feeling. So yeah, I think that's really useful. If you're able to share that, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, definitely.
One question there as you were
Go on.
talking, can you eat too quickly?
Absolutely, you can. Yes. Yes. I work a lot with people to slow down their eating, because also this affects your digestion as well. If we eat too quickly and our digestive system isn't ready to receive the food, we haven't produced the digestive juices. And also, the first port of call for food is in your mouth, chewing it. That's the first place where we can actually help with breaking down the food mechanically. So once it goes through the mouth, that food is then only going to be digested chemically. It's not going to be digested. There's no teeth anywhere else in the body that can chew that up. So if we're
There's a
eating
thought.
too fast, if we're eating too fast and large pieces of food are going into the digestive system, this can cause issues with people who have things like bloating, other digestive issues. If food particles are getting in, because like I say, if they're going into the stomach, then that's chemical digestion starting. If they're too big, they might not get to be small enough to then go into the small intestine, and large
Yeah.
pieces go through. They can ferment and cause all kinds of issues in the gut. So so we can absolutely eat too fast. And also we want our bodies to be ready to digest food. So we want the digestive juices in there. So yeah, the other
Yeah.
thing is eating distracted as well. So when people eat distracted, I always say try not to eat distracted, because your body is thinking about something else. It's not ready to receive food. So
That's
when we
interesting.
eat on the
Yeah.
go, don't we? We're
Mm,
busy doing something else. I'll just eat this whilst I'm
mm,
finishing an email or something else. So our body's actually focused on not on the food. And you might have heard of mindful eating, but that is
yeah.
looking at the food and focusing on actually the chewing and the eating, and eating nice and slow to make sure that we're breaking down the food in the mouth, first of all, as well as we can, so that we're helping our digestive system, because
Mm.
it's already better digested than if it goes through as great big chunks.
Yeah, I need to kickstart that process and
Mm,
have that process nice and slow so things can work in the right order. But
yeah,
yeah, I do sometimes think about mindful eating with my evening meal. So, the textures of things, the taste of things, that
yeah.
that sort of burst of taste that I get in my mouth. But interesting in what you just said there. What did you call it when you weren't focused on your eating? You were doing an email or something instead? Did you say
Distracted.
distracted?
Yeah,
I am definitely distractive eating at
yeah,
lunchtime,
yeah.
because I can eat healthy, I can have my salad or whatever, but I bring it back up to my desk, and I'm
Mm,
perhaps I'm catching up on a video or something, or maybe I'm, just reading something. So yeah, I never thought about my attention, if you like, being on something else, i.e. the computer screen or whatever's on it,
mm,
rather than, yeah, so then the things that are supposed to be working in my mouth and in my stomach and that potentially are on hold a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
We're not, our bodies aren't ready. They aren't looking. If you think about when you've cooked a meal and, you're in the kitchen, you're smelling you're making the meal, you're cutting up vegetables, whatever, you're cooking fish or meat or whatever it might, and your body can smell these and it's getting ready. It's starting to prepare digestive juices and things. If you are sitting at the computer and you're just carrying on and grabbing a sandwich, your body doesn't even know that that's about to happen, because
yeah,
there's no senses that have happened to tell your body that it needs to be ready to digest food. So,
yeah.
and it's very common
Mm,
nowadays. So, and I see quite a lot of digestive issues in my clinic. So, and I think part of it is this, that we're also busy. We're kind of inhaling our food. We are eating in a distracted state on the go on to the next thing. And we're not really focused on enjoying what we're eating, the flavors. And a lot of this can link to that uncontrolled appetite as well, because we don't actually realize we've eaten.
Yeah.
And we kind of can be grabbing things all the time. We don't know how much food we're putting into our body. We don't know what we're having.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
There's no there's no sort of calculation of what we're having even in a subconscious level, because
no,
we're sort of multitasking almost. So we
yeah,
all know that multitasking isn't a thing,
yeah,
particularly not when you're eating.
I know. We're all trying to do it, aren't we?
Yeah, we're just too busy.
Yeah.
I am definitely, Alex, going to, so today when I have my salad, I
Mhm.
haven't actually prepared it this morning. Quite often I'll prepare it in the morning, because if I do Neil one as well, then I'll do the two at the same time. But he's had some curry leftovers for his dinner today,
Yeah.
his lunch today. So I will be preparing it, but I shall not bring it back up here. I shall stay at the dining room table and
Yeah.
look outside the garden or something like that,
See
not
how
my
you feel.
computer, and mindfully eat for 20 minutes or so,
Yeah.
and make everything hopefully work as it should do.
Yeah, but also you're seeing what you're preparing, so your body's
Mm,
getting ready to for that to be coming into the digestive system in, however long. So
yeah,
yeah, you're preparing for it.
yeah,
So
visually, the
yeah,
visual
yeah.
cue of
It's the
preparing it and the
senses.
smell
Yeah,
and
where
that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mm,
So
I'm reading a book at the moment actually called Five Senses. You might enjoy this.
all right.
Let me show you. It's not about food as such, but um Life in the Five
All
Senses,
right, yeah.
Gretchen Rubin. It's
Oh,
so she's realised that she doesn't use her senses enough. So she's going through various experiments,
that's
sight, smell.
interesting.
Yeah, it's some of the
Yeah.
things that she said so far. I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Yeah, and just as you go outside and the things that you see and observe and how that then impacts other things. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting. But yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Alex. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I think there's been
no
so much
problem.
value that people can gain out of this. So if you just want to let people know how to connect with you, how to work with you, what you've got available for them, and we'll include that in the show notes as well.
Okay, yes. So I work a lot with testing. There are lots of different tests we can do. As we've touched on testing, it really depends what's going on for a person. So I would always say reach out to me first of all. My email is alex@alixtomkinson.co.uk, and my website is www.alixtomkinson.co.uk. So you can contact me on there. I work with a 12-week weight loss program. So this is for people, those complex ladies that I mentioned. So I work through 7 fundamentals of weight loss in that program, and it is all the I was going to say basics, but it's not really basic. It's this fundamentals, because there are things like that including there. We've appetite, we've talked about today. Appetite is really key, and reconnecting with the appetite. I look at things like mindset, self-love. So this is for ladies who have kind of lost that connection with themselves. They're frustrated with how they look. They're fed up. They've reached that point where they just don't know what to do.
Yeah,
Hormones are imbalanced. We just get to the point. We think it's inevitable. We're going to put weight on. We're just going to go into our 40s, go into menopause, and it's
that's
just
the
not
way
going to
it
be.
is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But through all of these, so these 7 fundamentals, so I look at things like stress. So stress is has a really big impact on weight loss and life in general. Sleep is another one. So we go through these 7 things. I'm trying to remember them all, but there's 7 different things. And yeah, clients who are on this program at the moment, they're loving it, because we're looking at so much. We look at the gut as well. So we're looking at all the important things that are needed to be in balance for weight loss to happen.
Mhm.
So it's not just eat less. If anything, it's not eat less and exercise more anymore. It's you need to eat enough for your body to be happy.
Yeah,
And then, yes, exercise comes alongside and is really important for health, but don't think that you can do too much exercise and then eat less and weight's going to drop off you, because your body is going to slow down. It's going to say, you're not getting enough nutrition coming in. So it's going to slow down your metabolic rate. There's lots of things. And I see all of this in my clinic from people
mm,
who have become more complex because over the years they've been on yo-yo diets, they've been
mm,
on various different lots of my clients have tried all the diets, very low calorie diets, shake diets, everything. So it's about rebalancing the body. We need that metabolism working in the best way. And so 7 fundamentals in my 12-week program that we
and
work
we're all
on.
different, aren't we? So just the knowledge of having these fundamentals, and then what we do, how we go through life, and it's life, isn't it? It's how you are in life. It's not just about what you eat, as you say, with the sleep and the exercise, and there's a lot of other factors that impact. Brilliant. Well, we'll share all of that in the show notes so that people can connect with you and find out more. And thank you again for your time. It's been super informative.
No problem. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's Writing with Purpose podcast. Having conversations with fellow writers or adventure enthusiasts brings two of my biggest loves in life together, writing and nature connection. I've been a copywriter and content creator for 23 years, but my passion is writing for well-being, and I'm on a mission to share the benefits that putting pen to paper has for personal wellness with as many people as possible. If you want to learn more about writing for your well-being and journaling techniques, please connect with me in my Facebook group, Journaling with Anna.